All right, back on the morning drive, brought to you by Valdosta Toyota, Girardin Jewelers, and Southern Vein and Laser Center. This interview segment brought to you by Kelly Lovett and Blanky. You can find them at their Valdosta office at 2912B North Oak Street. Many face tough times with debts, and Kelly Lovett and Blakey provide experienced, supportive counsel to help clients through the process of filing bankruptcy. So if you need them, give them a call or check them out at bankruptcyga.com. And we continue our series of interviews with candidates for political office. And joining us this morning, a candidate for Lowndes County Sheriff is J.D. Yeager. J.D., good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
We appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. I know this, as we were talking with Glenn earlier, when you run for public office, the demands on your time and everything else in your life is a lot more than probably most people realize. So.
Yeah, I don't think people realize what we actually have to go through. But honestly, Chris, I'm having fun, and it is time consuming. You're up early, you're out late, and my wife says that it's a real good thing that I've got unlimited service on my telephone. That's for sure.
I'm sure it keeps ringing pretty constantly. So, matter of fact, let's go to the phone lines, Eddie, while we have you here. 2411059 is our number. Hello, caller. Welcome to the morning drive.
Hey, this is Sam Owens. How you doing?
Sam Owens, Attorney General of the state of Georgia. Mr. Owens, good morning. How are you?
My pleasure. Doing fine.
Good morning, Sam.
Doing well. How you doing?
Getting better every day. It's a lot of fun. I got 33 days to go, sir.
Okay. Well, tell me when you get to the hour.
We're here. We're live on the air now, Sam, and I know you. You're calling in to talk about the candidate in the studio with us this morning, JD.
Absolutely. Well, sheriffs are really important to our state, and I work with all of them. We have a great rapport with the sheriffs and the DAs around the state, and I'm looking forward to JD's victory November 6th.
Now, what about his candidacy, Attorney General, does because as the Attorney General, obviously, as you say, you work with a lot of sheriffs. What about JD has attracted your attention?
Integrity, commitment to represent the public. We live in a state where a lot of people really depend on the sheriffs. We depend on them not only for security, but to take care of that jail, to be good stewards of our tax dollars, and, candidly, not to look for fights, but to solve fights. Mm-hmm. And, JD's got plenty of years in that office. He worked for a great man, the departing chairman of the county, and I think he's got the tools necessary to do a great job for the citizens of Lowndes County.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. I appreciate it.
Sam, listen, yeah, we do appreciate you spending your time with us this morning and give us a quick call. And I know you're busy, but we appreciate your time as always.
My pleasure. You have a great rest of the week.
All right, Sam. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam.
That's got to be nice to hear that on the other end of the phone.
Well, it's when I received that endorsement from the Attorney General of the state, it was humbling. Mm-hmm. When the highest law enforcement officer in the state believes in your ability, believes in your, and he does his research. It was just really an honor to receive that, and had somebody talk to a friend of mine the other night, said, I don't believe the Attorney General endorsed him, and she said, well, if you'll go by the Republican Party headquarters on Norman Drive, it's taped to the front door, so you can see it for sure.
JD, let's talk about your background in law enforcement. You're certainly no stranger to it in this area, and most people know of your background, but tell folks who may not be aware, you've been involved with law enforcement, back since your first days of working, I guess. When
I was 21 years old, I started with the Valdosta Police Department, and I spent right at 4 years with them, and then I got hired on with Sheriff G. Robert Carter at Lowndes County. Shortly thereafter, Sheriff Falk took office in 1993, and I spent 17 and a half years at the sheriff's office. I went from being a patrol deputy to progressing through the ranks. I worked at in every division. I worked through every rank. I was promoted through every rank, and then the last 7 years that I was there, I was the number 2. We didn't have a chief deputy position. Sheriff Falk called it the senior administrative captain position, and there's a lot of history to that I won't take the time to go in. But I was in effect the chief deputy of the sheriff's office. I ran all daily operations. All of the division commanders answered directly to me, and I was responsible for all personnel, all budgeting, and like I said, running the department basically for the last 7 years of my career there.
Gotcha. And that was when I guess you started when Sheriff Carter was there, and then when Sheriff Polk was there when he took over later on. Correct?
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's right. And I had the opportunity to work for 2 really good sheriffs, and I was blessed in that arena.
What about it? Wanted to make, of course, you ran for sheriff last time. What made you decide to take the turn and do it again?
Well, I did run last time, and I was defeated in a runoff. It was a small margin, but it was a defeat, and it was something that I never suffered before. And I've given praise for that loss, believe it or not, over the last 4 years, because it was a life-changing moment for me in a lot of ways. And when you've never really failed at anything, it's a really humbling experience. And we've had a conversation. When you get to the position that you think you're in control, God will find a way to humble you, and you need that. You just don't need to forget that it happened. And so when time rolled through, when that was over, it was so nasty, it was so dirty. My family went through so much. I said that I would never run for anything again. You couldn't get me in political office or a political campaign. But about 2 years ago, I had so many people coming to me that wanted me to, please consider doing this again. And so I had a Bible study group at my home. The first people I went to were them and my pastor. And I said, I want you to pray about this. And I said, I'm going to do the same. So Pam and I did that. We spent a good bit of time in prayer and talking to people throughout the county about, what do you think? And it was honestly overwhelming. And so I submitted that it was a calling, that it was something I was supposed to do. And I'll tell you this, I don't know that I'm called to win. I know that I'm called to run. And, losing before has given me some tremendous opportunities to help other people. And I don't know that may be something I'm being set up for now. I don't know. And either way, I'm good with it. As long as I know what that I'm doing what I'm called to do, and I'm going to give it 100%, then November the 7th, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be happy with the results.
What about, and you mentioned it was the campaign or the quest for sheriff is, we've heard it termed as a heated race between you and Sheriff Chris Brown, obviously, who is the incumbent, who's running for re-election. You talked about the last campaign being a nasty campaign. There's been a lot of talk about that kind of thing. What would you like to see done at the Sheriff's Department that you feel you could do better?
Well, our crime rate, regardless of what's being said by the opposing side, the crime rate has increased over the last 4 years. If you go to the GBI Crime Statistics website, which is the most accurate reporting crime website for the state, our burglaries are up by a large margin. Our homicides are up tremendously. Our gang activities really picked up over the last 4 years. And what I bring to the table is the knowledge from working the job, the day-to-day operations of every division at that department. And, I spoke at the forum a couple of nights ago. My resume's proven. You go back and look and see what I did with the sheriff's office, what I was a part of. And our sheriff's office was regarded across the nation as one of the finest there was, and regarded in the state as one of the best. And we don't have that. We as taxpayers are not getting the services and protection that we deserve and that we pay for and that the citizens here had grown accustomed to. And my position is it's because of a lack of knowledge from your leadership. Not that he's a bad guy, because I've said before, I'm not going to bash him. I am committed that I'm going to focus on the issues that affect our community and the qualifications, mine versus his, and I want it out there in front of the voters that they can say, okay, this is what we've got to compare. If you surround yourself by a command staff and a group of employees that share in your desire, that have the qualifications, the knowledge, and the ability, but most importantly, the desire to succeed and excel your department to the top, then you will succeed. And there's some great employees down there. I got some real good friends in that department. I spent a lot of time, I grew up with them.
You invested, yeah.
And they're capable if the leadership will just point and click and allow them to do their jobs, they can do it.
When you mentioned the things that you mentioned, the burglary rate, the murder rate, and the gang activity, I can see gang activity as being something you can put more focus on. But as a sheriff, how do you reverse the other two trends? I mean, just being in office, what are some steps you can do to stop the growth in those areas?
Well, what you've got to do is, and I'll give you a perfect example. During my research, and obviously I've done a good bit of it for the campaign, during one 90-day period, there were 41 home invasions in Lowndes County. It was said yesterday, well, a lot of those were in the city. I agree with that. The city's in the county. Remerton's in the county. Hayhire's in the county. Lake Park's in the county. Those people pay taxes, and their county taxes, so your sheriff has to serve them, or is supposed to. If you have a crime spree, burglaries, robberies, home invasions, anything like that, you've got to know your people. You've got to know your assets. You utilize the assets that are available to you to go out and combat those crimes. For instance, if you're having a crime spree like we did with that 90-day period, and I'm not saying that happens all the time, but that was one period. You've got to take every single court transport officer that's not tied up, every detective that's not tied up on a major case, every one of your special ops units, your interstate traffic units, and you put them out there on those roads in the areas where those crimes are occurring, and you saturate that area. It's called proactive law enforcement. You've got to be aggressive, and you've got to be proactive. If you ever become a department, which we have, that you're reactive, you're way behind, and it's really, really hard to catch up. The gang activity is the same way. You've got to get out there. You've got to be proactive. You've got to saturate those gang infested areas. And I used the analogy the other night with drug areas and gang areas and things like that. It's like running roaches. If the exterminator comes and sprays your house today and you've got any roaches, they're going next door. Well, you just have to keep following and moving them, but you're always behind them and you're moving them out of the way.
Again, J.D. Yeager joining us this morning. He is a candidate for a Lowndes County Sheriff on the November the 6th general election. And coming off of the main topic of our discussion before we had our guest on this morning talking about the presidential debates last night, you've expressed an interest to debate your opponent on some of these issues, and you say you've met some resistance there.
Well, yes, I have. I don't like the negative campaigning. I've committed to not getting involved in negative campaigning. I don't believe that people should base their vote in this election or any election nationally on friendship, where I go to church or he goes to church, who stands at the podium and smiles the best. It's not about that. It's about who's qualified to do the job. And the only way you're going to let the voters know your qualifications versus the other person is to stand before them and answer the questions and address their concerns on how you would handle them and what your qualifications are to do that. And we did have a debate set up. The Valdosta State College Republicans and College Democrats requested a debate with only the sheriff's candidates because, as you said, it is a high-profile race. And, I told them I would clear my schedule any day because I believe that debate's necessary. We watched one last night that I believe turned some heads. People had an opportunity to hear the issues and hear each candidate's ideas and their perspectives. And we had 2 dates. My opponent, the first date, he couldn't accept. The second date, I believe he set. And then last Friday, I was called, and he had called the college Democrat chairman and declined to debate me. They were going to give us the questions up front. So, I don't understand it, and it's not for me to say. I'm still available for debates. We've got 33 days, and I wouldn't mind having 33 of them.
Your wife may mind that, by the way, but you're going to every single night. She may not like that too much.
Well, my wife is honestly, she's my biggest supporter. My kids are just absolutely great through this. We're getting home late a lot of nights, and but they understand. We talked about it beforehand, and so everything's fine there.
Let me just ask you again, J.D. Yeager joining us this morning, a candidate for Lowndes County Sheriff. Let me ask you something that people talk about behind the scenes but we might as well go ahead and talk about. We're all friends here. A lot of people say, well, J.D., and I don't know if they'll say it to you, but they say, well, you work for Sheriff Ashley Paulk. We feel like if we elected you, we're just kind of putting Sheriff Paulk back in running the sheriff's department. What's your response to that?
That's an easy answer. Sheriff Polk retired from being the sheriff 4 years ago. He chose that retirement. He wasn't forced to retire, obviously. And, he ran for chairman of county commission. And the reason he ran for chairman of county commission is because so many people came to me and asked me to help talk him into it and talk Ginger into it, because Ginger was the one that had to approve it.
Right.
If Sheriff Polk, if Ashley wanted to be sheriff, he'd run again. He's getting up, I'm not going to call him old because he might be listening to this, but he's getting some age on him, and he's had a really, really successful, good life, and he wants to go ride a bulldozer, and he's made that abundantly clear. People that know me know that, I'm not controlled by anybody. I look, especially now in the stage of my life that I'm in now, I seek that discernment from the Lord, and I try to follow that direction, and then I ask my wife. And that's pretty much who I
those two in your corner,
listen
you'll be all right. So.
The insinuation that Ashley would control me or I'd be a puppet, I've heard it every day. It's absolutely wrong. But the only way that people are going to really know is to give me a chance. Give me a chance to prove my worth, and then I'll show you something. If folks do have questions for you, want to contact you, what's the best way to do that? My cell phone is on every card, every real estate sign that's out there. It's 740-0978. My website.
Facebook as well? Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. My website, jdyeagerforsheriff.com. My email is jd@jdyeager.net. I'm out there.
Yeah, and also another aspect of it I was going to bring up, since you have left law enforcement, you're working in real estate with our good friends over at ERA Realty and Joyner. Has that changed your perspective? Because that's really the first time you've been in private business, I guess, in your professional career. It's been amazing, and I really don't have time to tell the whole story, but I can tell you, me being in the real estate business is another God thing. But Clint and Angela and Reg and all the group over there, they're phenomenal people, and I couldn't have fallen into a better place, and I've been very, very blessed in the real estate business, and I like it. I just don't love it. Yeah. And you got to love what you do to go through life. Right. But I can do it. Yeah. I've shown that I can do it, and it's given me another perspective as far as business. But the other thing is, I always like helping people. Law enforcement is about helping people. Right. And in real estate, you still get to help people. That's right. It's been really, really good for me. Yeah. JD, we appreciate your time this morning. I know you're off and busy doing your working and also campaigning, so we appreciate your time. Well, I do appreciate it, and I pulled up my website because we've got some other appearances, and I wanted to make sure and put it out there that we just don't want people to forget on the 18th that the Black Crow Media and the home builders are putting on that forum at the chamber. at the conference center, and I think it's going to be really good. We've also got another one that will be on October 22nd at Serenity Church, that the 30 Club is putting on a forum there, and then the American Association of University Women putting on one October the 24th at Valdosta High School Performing Arts Center. People, I just encourage people to get out and listen to not only us, but the other candidates in different races across the county and the state, and listen to our perspectives and our qualifications and ask us questions, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that people have. More information is good. That's right. Exactly. That's right. And if you happen to miss part of this interview this morning, we'll have this entire interview up on our website at ValdostaToday.com by noon today, so you can check it out there. And again, it's all about getting a better idea and making you a smarter and more informed voter when you go to the polls. And remember, October the 9th, next Tuesday, is your deadline to register. If you've not yet done so, please do so. It's not only your right, it's your duty, I believe, as a citizen. JD, again, thanks this morning. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you allowing me to be here. Absolutely. We'll take a break and come right back. More of the Morning Drive coming up right after this on News Talk 105.9. This is WVGA.